Welcome back to another episode of Thinking That Matters. I'm Elizabeth Mahusai, your podcast host, and I am looking forward to sharing with you another amazing interview. So today I get to welcome my friend and fellow Leadership McKinney class of 2025 graduate, greatest class ever. This is Jin Shin, and he is an attorney at law. And I am super pleased that you said yes. Thank you. I know your schedule has been hectic with cases. So share with the audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, and also your background.
Sure. My name is Jin Shin. By profession, I'm an attorney at law at a law firm called Clark Hill. I'm an employment attorney, so I represent employers and managers and all things employment related. So allegations of discrimination, harassment, retaliation, wage and hour claims, non-compete issues, the whole package. More interestingly, I think, I was born in Korea. I grew up in South Africa, and now I'm a father of two here in McKinney, Texas.
Wow. Okay, so born in Korea, grew up in South Africa. What took your family to South Africa?
So I guess it was my parents calling back then to become missionaries in South Africa. So my father was a pastor in Korea. My mom was a teacher, but because of that calling, they sort of sold or gave away everything that they had and then moved to South Africa. That was back in 1993, so just before the end of apartheid. So I moved with them, and so I spent from the ages of 5 all the way through end of high school back in South Africa.
Wow. What is your fondest memory of your time in South Africa?
I think the weekend trips where we took just our tents and would camp out in the beaches.
Wow.
Near Cape Town, Simons Bay, and then sort of living off the land or the sea, to be more precise. So catching the fishes, shellfishes, and then eating off the land.
Wow.
I still sometimes dream of those days, and hope one day I might be able to take my kids
to go back
and to have this, to share the same experience.
What sweet, it sounds like sweet memories that you created with as a family there. Now, knowing that your parents were missionaries, I have a lot of missionary friends. What was that like for them? Would you say in general it was, for the most part, I can't even use the word easy. It just doesn't even make sense with that, with an assignment because you're in a foreign country. Mm-hmm. What was their experience like as missionaries in South Africa? And which means your experience was like as a result of that?
Sure. I think it was one of personal growth for both my parents and myself. What comes hand in hand with missionary work is the lack of finances or the lack of economic stability.
Yeah.
In spite of that circumstances, giving their life for the Lord to spread the gospel, which involved visiting the townships and visiting the townships on weekdays, weekends, going into their homes and sharing the gospel, to listen to the stories of their lives and the challenges that they're facing. So as their son, I think sometimes I was a little detached from that experience. Since they were out in the mission field, I was at home, going to school, doing what regular kids do, right? But the challenges that they faced economically, also socially, in terms of being the few Asian people in South Africa back then, I think that had a lasting impact on me and how I grew up as well.
And at what point, because watching parents that are obviously called of the Lord to go to a foreign country to share the gospel with people. At what point did you go from being maybe detached to determining how you wanted to embrace the gospel, the message of Jesus?
To go into a little bit on why I was detached, I guess I saw the realities or the humanness of ministry work, missionary work. At the end of the day, they're all people as well, right?
Right.
They make mistakes, just like any one of us. And having that first-hand experience, seeing that sort of drew me away from wanting to become like that. But then in middle school, I guess it was one of the retreats that I attended. That's when I sort of found Christ, or Christ found me. I don't know which way it works, but ever since then, the trajectory of my life has sort of been altered, where in the past it was just living without a purpose. But after meeting Christ, it's living with purpose and direction.
So when you think about, because I love thinking in black and white. That's part of how my brain works. And, and oftentimes I think people are picking a path, right? And you literally went from, you said living without a purpose to living with a purpose. Give me a tangible example of how going from one to the other, you now have this newfound purpose, how it did shift the trajectory of your life.
So the ad was back when I was in middle school. So just like regular kids, you wake up, go to school, come back, do some homework or after-school activities, and come back, go to bed, repeat.
Right.
So for years, my life was like that. I think one of my parents' friends commented that when you see Jin, and when you see my brother, Sam, when Sam cries, he still looks happy. But when Jin smiles, he still looks sad.
Oh.
So that was the life that I was living. But after meeting Christ, I wanted to give everything for the glory of God. So even the simple tasks, such as going to school or doing work, had a different purpose and meaning, right? Where I would derive additional energy because of that purpose. So naturally, my grades changed from just being an average student to sort of better student.
Okay.
And also, I think what I want to do with my life, I think that changed as well.
So tell me about what, in terms of what you wanted to do with your life, how did that play into you ultimately going into law?
Sure. So my talents back then was in the arts, so drawing, painting. I would be top of the class. I think one time the school commissioned me and a couple of others to do a painting for the school.
Oh, wow.
So that it would be auctioned off to the school. So in the space of art, design, that's where my confidence was. But after meeting Christ, I did not want to just live for myself. So my prayers back then was, Lord, I want you to take care of my life, and in return, I will give everything to you. And in those prayers, I was called, or I had the conviction that I was called to pursue a career in law. And back then, I was a shy, reticent kid. I couldn't put together sentences. But because it was a calling from God, I decided, if that's the path you want me to live, I will go all in. So from that day, it's a complete 180 for me, where now as I was focusing on the studies and the classes that I needed to get myself into law school, plan my career, the next steps of my career, on what do I need to do to become a lawyer.
Even understanding what that takes, right? Yes.
Right, because law was not even in the framework until then. So.
Wow. And to think from going from what I would call more creative arts, right, to law is, in my mind, it feels like a very big shift. I don't know. Did it feel that way for you, or how?
It
Give me your perspective.
A huge shift. I think I myself didn't know that I could become a lawyer. It was just surreal to me. But I had such a conviction that I was called into that field that I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know how it was going to happen. But as I said, because I went all in,
yes,
it meant no turning back, right? So people around me probably thought I was crazy. Why would you give up all that talent to go into a field that, when I see you, Jin, as a person, you have no talents. Why would you do that? And but that was my purpose, and I've not looked back since.
That's amazing. And now, where did you go to college?
I went to Liberty University.
Okay.
Back in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Yes.
So my parents heard from their friends that their children, they enjoyed their time at Liberty University.
Yeah. I hear great things about Liberty University. It's also obviously a Christian-based university.
Right.
And so I'm curious, what was your undergraduate?
I did international studies back then.
Okay.
With a pre-law minor. But
Now, does Liberty University have a law school?
It does have a law school.
Okay. I didn't know. I wasn't sure. My sister-in-law graduated from law school at University of Florida.
Okay.
And so she did business litigation. But that's, so I know there are certain schools that definitively have law schools, but I've not spoken with anyone who was at Liberty and went to the law school there.
To put things a little bit into context, I did not know Liberty was located in Lynchburg, Virginia. Well, I knew about Lynchburg, Virginia, but I didn't have enough information on what that was like. Back in South Africa, we were still using like 56K modems, and so internet would cut out during college applications.
56K modems? Wow.
So
wow.
Even though I'm not that old, I come from an era that...
You were living in an area of the world, though, that is behind the times in that sense.
So in my mind, America was like New York.
Right.
And when I
it's
arrived
very
in
different in Lynchburg, Virginia.
DC, and got on the Amtrak and started going down to Lynchburg, Virginia, I was thinking to myself, oh my word, what did I get myself into?
I love it. Funny story, Fred and I, we were in a season where we felt the Lord was going to move us, and we just didn't know where. It was the weirdest feeling. And some of our missionary friends were like, well, you sound like missionaries, so while you might not be called to a foreign country, pray about different areas of the U.S.,
Sure.
And which we did. And while it was not Virginia, one of the last iterations when we were praying about areas of the country we might live was West Virginia. Oh. And we were like, oh, just not so sure about that, But ultimately it ended up being Dallas Fort Worth. But I'm just appreciating what you're saying about, very different than what you imagined.
Oh, there was a lot of prayers where I was complaining to God, like, are you sure this is where I'm meant to be?
You're like, I know I said I'm all in, but, oh man. Okay, so you go to Liberty University. You're in law school.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
That was in college.
Ah, okay.
So even though I grew up in South Africa, I'm still a Korean citizen. So, which means now Korea has a draft system. So after college, or sometime, I had to serve in the military.
Really?
So after college, I went back to Korea, taught English to kids a little bit, and did my time in the military there, which is a whole other experience.
Wow.
And then it's when I came to back to the United States for law school.
Okay. So there was a gap in between your undergrad and then going to law school.
Yes.
So I'm curious, when you went back to Korea to serve to take care of your time in the military, in what ways were you tempted, I'm going to say it that way, to not pursue that calling to law? Or maybe you weren't, right? You may not have been, but I'm curious because there was distance or time in between. So I wonder what was happening in your thought process during that time.
I think you nailed it spot on, or I was tempted.
Okay.
So went back, was teaching English then. I was, teaching English at something called a hagwon, which is like a private after school institution. Teaching English to kids from 5-year-old to middle school kids, and I was getting adjusted to that lifestyle, moving up the ranks within there. I was thinking, I'm making good money here. Do I really need to go back to school? But every time I had those thoughts, there were events that happened in the hagwon, such as disputes with parents or like difficult kids, and I guess there was always a yearning that I was meant for a higher purpose. And those incidents reminded me that this is not where I'm meant to be. Yeah. Not at this forever.
Right.
Not meant to be there
forever. You can be meant to be there that time, but not long term.
Right. Next stage was the Army, and then in the Army, I was prepared for law school, and then came. After I was discharged, I came to the States, to Texas, of all places.
So where did you go to law school?
SMU.
SMU.
Yes.
Okay, so you walk into law school. We were talking about this earlier, so I think it's such a great place to insert limiting beliefs, right? Because of all of these things, I'm just thinking about the cool aspects of your background, your experience. You're now at SMU, you're in Texas, which is like its own country in some cases, right? What were some of the limiting beliefs that you can look back and go, yeah, I had to overcome that, and how you overcame it?
I think first, I quickly realized Texas was very different from Virginia.
You don't say.
And then I arrived at law school and realized, you have to understand that I had no connections in Texas, no family, no friends, nothing. I only chose Texas because of, again, a prayer. My choices were left between Texas and Atlanta, Georgia. Dallas, Texas, and Atlanta, Georgia. And I was going back and forth. And then that moment I received the message, Joshua, 1:9.
Be strong and
Be
courageous.
strong and courageous. Don't
Yes.
be discouraged. For the Lord will be with you
Wherever you go. Yeah.
And that's when I sort of decided, okay, if God is going to trust me with this decision, I will come to Texas. I knew it was a growing place for the Korean community here in the United States. I knew that potentially I'll be able to help that community if and when I become an attorney. So it was a strategic decision. And then, but again, with no connections,
Right.
Stepping into law school, I just see all these kids brimming with confidence, articulate. Law school follows the Socratic method, so you get called to stand up, present cases, answer questions on the fly, and you see all my peers flawless. And so beginning to question myself, do I really belong here? Can I survive here? I'm barely making through the reading materials to get through that. So I guess you call it imposter syndrome, right? That was a constant battle for me through law school. And even now, I still have those feelings in different settings. I think the lawyer's profession, people view attorneys as being strong-willed, almost perfect. You want them to be the smartest person in the room. You want them to be fighting for you as the smartest person in the room.
In the room, yeah.
As the most articulate.
A lot of high expectations.
There's a lot of high expectations.
So go back to law school for me for a moment. When you had that, I'm sure it wasn't the first time in your life where you were thinking imposter syndrome, but let's use that as an example. When you're watching these peers stand up, deliver with the Socratic method, they're articulate, they're projecting confidence. Doesn't mean they were actually really confident, right? But they were projecting confidence. How did you get through that? Because clearly, newsflash, he graduated with a law degree, right? And you've been practicing law for a number of years. How did you overcome that? How did you keep that limiting belief from holding you back?
Lots of tears and prayers. I think the first step was always praying, and then the prayer led to a reminder on why I was here. What
your purpose.
The purpose, what confession, and what did I give up to be here? The confession that I'll go all in for God. And once I was reminded of that calling, fear, the worries, my heart became much calmer, right? And once it became calmer, I was able to sort of decide, hey, how do I overcome XYZ limitations? How do I become a better speaker? Does that involve talking in front of a mirror, practicing out loud, going through practice questions or anticipated questions that I might be called on? So once I had peace in my heart, I was able to think more strategically on the steps I could take. Then second was more external factors, which were having great mentors, mentors that's been there, done that, gone through this, had similar experiences, and that sometimes they don't even have to impart a special knowledge or words. It's just being there for as a soundboard to me, and that gave so much encouragement, renewed strength to carry on.
It really does speak to the importance of a willingness of giving one's time, and I'm going to say presence for someone Because it's interesting, you said it wasn't necessarily that they were imparting special knowledge as much as they were willing to be there for you. Right. And also too, just to go back, I'm actually appreciating this progression. When I asked you about overcoming it, you said one was the prayer, reminding yourself of the calling, all of that just that confession that you had made of I'm all in, Jesus. That's what helped to restore peace. And then when you had more restored peace, then you could think more clearly around the steps you needed to take, whether it was talking in front of a mirror, using practice questions, whatever the case was. And then the third thing you said was mentors, people who could really be there, be present for your life or for you in that. Now, you're doing some mentoring yourself these days. Tell me about that.
So, the least I could do was give back in some sense. In law school, it was trying to mentor high school kids at church.
Okay.
And now that I'm an attorney, I am focusing more on mentoring law students who may or may not be going through the same experiences that I had.
Right.
But if I could be there to just become a soundboard for them and make a meaningful impact in their lives, I think I would call that a success. Even if that means just one person who feels that way, that's what I want to do. So I get paired up with law school mentees through local bar associations and through other various legal organizations. So that means having coffees early in the morning or lunches. I'm there. If that means a Zoom call late in the evening, I'm there. So
now, with these law students that you're mentoring, have you heard any limiting beliefs? Obviously, we know you dealt with and still do, actively engage your mind to keep imposter syndrome from taking hold. What has been any patterns of limiting beliefs you've heard in current day law students?
Law school, sort of, everyone's searching for that job, right? The first job out of law school. And to get that job, you're interviewing for so many internships that may lead to jobs.
Or may not.
Or may not. But I think it's part and parcel with many law students is that they face a lot of rejection. Rejection during interviews, during callback interviews, thereafter. And you come to a point where you're rejected enough that you start to question yourself on, can I make it? Is there an end to this sort of rat race of competing for jobs? So the vulnerability, the insecurities that comes with rejection, I think I see a lot in many law students.
So I'm curious, I'm just thinking about that because rejection is hard. In working with a lot of salespeople and sales leaders, there's a lot of you hear a lot of no's, a lot of no where that's concerned. And I find that people often take rejection personally because they are not anchored in who they are and whose they are. I'm curious, in what ways have you had opportunity where it was appropriate to share your faith and your conviction in who you are and whose you are?
I think especially if I come to realize that my mentee is Christian, that conversation sort of happens naturally. If the mentee is not Christian, I'm more cautious on having that conversation because I don't know if it's more to protect myself or in terms of I don't want criticism from them for sharing my faith, or if it's more, I guess it's related, a fear on how they would perceive me if I bringing too much or bring that side of the story into me. But that's part and parcel of who I am. Sorry, I forgot the question.
Well, that's okay. I was just asking, do you find that if there's opportunity when appropriate where you can share? No, so I think I'm appreciating the answer, because the reason why I ask is I believe there are a lot of professionals, not just in law, but in other areas and spaces where whether they're mentoring someone or they're engaging with someone in a work environment where there is hesitation in sharing of one's faith or talking more openly about it. We often live in a very contentious, judgment-ridden world. And so that's why I was asking, because I know there are people listening that there is fear around sharing openly about where a person is, where their faith is concerned. So I appreciate you sharing that perspective.
And I think I would be the first person sort of to confess guilt in that respect, where sometimes I tell part of my story, not the entire story, so as not to sort of overly share.
I'm with you.
Because of potential fears or fears of how I think others would perceive me. And I don't know if that's right of me. And that's what I'm struggling with in the present day and age, especially when everything's so polarized and
it's definitely not an easy it's not an easy aspect. And I think about, what's interesting is you observed let me see if I can put this together. You observed your parents as missionaries in a foreign country, sharing their faith openly, actively, and you come to a foreign place. I mean, it was foreign for you, right? To come into the United States and, through the what I call it marketplace ministry, where you're out in and among the business community, you're connecting with people, but that doesn't mean that every conversation has to be about faith or sharing the gospel,
right,
because your very life is a demonstration of it. And that's the beauty of you knowing who you are, and people are able to observe that, just like you were observing your parents. Their calling in life was to actively do that. Your calling in life is to be a good lawyer and to follow through on your commitment to the Lord in that. And so it just fleshes out differently. Does that make sense?
Much more articulate than me.
Well, I think it's an important topic, because I think there are a lot of people who are either they are so fearful that they don't want to say anything, or we beat ourselves up that we don't say enough. And what if the Lord, if we do the same thing with how you said that you prayed, Lord, take care of my life and I'll give you everything. Well, I mean, I'm guessing the Lord will take care of who you mentor, what their background is, the conversations that you'll have, and being willing to walk through the doors that he opens, for those conversations. I think he takes care of all of those things, just like he's taken care of you up to this point. It's really...
Can I say amen to that?
Yes, you can. Yes, you totally can. So for the person, I want to, because, man, I want to have you back on. You can tell your wife that, you'll be that much more confident because you've already done it. But because I think there's so many different things that we can explore, especially from a faith-based place as well. But I would love for you to speak to the person listening or watching that they're a Christian and they know that they know that they know that they're doing what God has for them, how would you encourage them to stay the course, do the next thing? For you, it was move from South Africa to the U.S., go back to Korea, come back to the U.S. What would be your encouragement to the listener to stay the course in what God has called them to do?
Again, you go back to when you were called, when you met God, when you accepted Christ into your life. How did that affect you? How did that affect your trajectory of your life? And how much value do you place on that aspect to the extent that it affects what you do day to day? I think just remembering that moment and the journey that He has taken you from that moment to today, on how He has transformed your life. I think you can't weigh that or compare that. And once you realize that, it's hard to say that I'm going to live for myself only.
Yeah, I like. It's hard to say I'm going to live for my life only when you recognize, when you are reminding yourself all the ways in which God has transformed you.
Right.
And, the cool part that I think about listening to you is that it's all the ways He has transformed you. And it's the anticipation of all the ways He's actively, presently, future transforming you.
Definitely. And this profession has been sort of a humbling experience for me constantly, where because I know that I'm not talented in writing or speech or et cetera, I have no choice but to live my life and surrender myself to God constantly, day to day.
Yes.
So maybe that's why He called me into this profession, that I will follow Him forever.
Yield.
Yield.
Yeah, yield. Well, as you were, there's a couple of scriptures that kept coming to my mind as I was listening to you talk about that. Isaiah 50, verse 4, He'll give you the tongue of the learned to speak a word in due season, to basically to bring strength to the weary. And
still waiting for that tongue, but
but the fact that you're actively waiting makes me think that my power is made perfect in your weakness, right? I mean, that even Moses was like, I can't speak. You're wanting me to go speak to the people of it. I can't. Wow. And look at all that he accomplished in his yielding to the Lord. It actually makes me quite. I have such anticipation for thinking about all the ways that He will take your yieldedness and use it for His glory, like in really powerful ways. Like that, it actually makes me emotional thinking about it, because I think when and if more Christians would approach where God has placed them, like the call that He has placed on their life, and like truly yield to that, like from a humble, like being humble enough to say, I need you, Lord. The gal that I interviewed before you, she was saying how she was in a really tough relationship. It was a dangerous relationship. And she finally came to the point of going, God, help me find a way out. And within a month, she had a way out.
Wow.
And what occurred to me, I was like, what if our willingness for you've mentioned it multiple times, to pray, to ask God. I said to her, what if by being willing to humble ourselves enough to ask God, we end up moving ourselves out of the way so that He can make a way for us to do that which He has called us to do. And in doing so, He gets the glory, because we know from the get-go, it was all Him to begin with.
takes so much courage, though.
It does. It absolutely does.
It's a constant battle for me as well, day to day, on am I yielding for God every day, or am I living by myself, by my own will? And it's been a lifelong struggle for me. But every time I do yield, every time I do, I guess I get forced to yield, where I reach the point where I realize I cannot.
Oh my word! When we reach the end of ourselves, right?
That's when I have no choice but to confess I yield.
I am very much resonating with what you just said, because my tendency is to approach with a very self-confident, not that I wake up going, I'm going to be independent, self-sufficient, get her done, but I find myself in that mindset, and God will bring me to a place of, oh no, you won't. Where then I have to go, okay, I yield, it's getting myself back in alignment. That's why for me, I need the word. I need God's word every morning to keep myself in that, myself in that space. Okay, so bring us full circle just for a moment. Where are your parents now?
They're actually living with me.
Okay.
Living with us to help with the kids, because it really takes an entire family or a village to raise a kid. So when we got the chance, we called the SOS, and thankfully they're willing to place down whatever they needed to and come help us. So they're here.
What a blessing that not only are they getting to engage with their grandchildren, and your grandchildren are having the privilege of, I really wish we had more of that in our country, where it's more of the family
Sure.
really supporting one another
Right.
in that.
I mean, there's challenges, of course.
Of
living
course.
multi-generational family in under one roof.
Absolutely. I can only imagine. I'm just saying, I'm not sure I could do it, but yes, I would have to imagine that, yes, there are challenges. Well, I have so enjoyed this conversation, and I'm so grateful for your yes. I ask every single guest, because my passion is really helping people to cultivate thinking that matters, because I believe our thinking really sets the stage for our living. Mm-hmm. So why do you believe it's important to cultivate thinking that matters?
I think everyone has a purpose in life. Everyone has a purpose that God has placed them at a certain point, certain place for a specific purpose. And to be able to be used as a clean vessel for Him, you need to be ready. And I think thinking that matters. Getting yourself prepared to be used for God's purpose at any moment in time, to be ready. I think you cannot detach yourself from mindful thinking and preparation.
Absolutely love it. And I mean, I cannot help but think of Philippians 4:8. Whatever things are true, noble, just, pure, lovely, of good report, virtuous, and praiseworthy, think on these things. Because I believe Paul really understood, who is the author of that verse, he really understood the value of thinking as it relates to being yielded so that we can be the hands and feet of Jesus on a daily basis. His life was very much a demonstration of that, yes. but always always attached to right thinking. Absolutely love it, because ultimately, when you cultivate thinking that matters, to use your words, you're preparing your vessel to be ready for what God intends to do, things that matter to Him. And And in doing so, you live a life, you build a career, you become a lawyer, you say yes to those spaces and places where God knows that you are going to be maybe forced to yield, right? To yield, to allow him to work in you and through you. But your story, your journey has definitely been one of demonstrating that it started with inviting Jesus into your life and always going back to the transformation that occurred from there to now. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jen. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.